everybody, the Straight Outta BS podcast. Thank you for joining us for another episode. I wanted to shout out Jeneen Miller for being my Patreon donor. Thank you so much. I appreciate the support so much. It really means the world to me. Thanks to everybody who's sharing the videos, liking them, sharing with friends, all that stuff. I want to do a moment of silence for the person still suffering with addiction or whatnot. So on the count of 3, I'm going to do a moment of silence. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Thank you for that. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce my guest for the day. Go ahead and introduce yourself and where you went, what years.
Hi, my name's Alexei Lindis. I am a survivor of Devereux, League City, Texas, and Heritage in Provo, Utah. Heritage RTC in Provo, Utah. I attended Devereux from 96 through 98, and then I attended Heritage in Provo from 98 through 2000.
Okay, and did you get transported by your parents, or what was the situation there?
Okay, so yeah, my dad actually took me so I had been running away, and I was in UCLA, neuropsych, and my dad came and got me in the middle of the night, and we got on a plane, and we went to Devereux, Texas.
Okay. Were you just running away, or was it other behaviors, or do you know?
Yeah, I had a lot of problems, man. I had traumatic brain injury from a bout with encephalitis when I was 12. So I had mental health issues, like legit, and I wasn't able to be in school. And I really had, a lot of different issues. But of course, T.T.I wasn't going to help with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. When you got to Devereux, first of all, what is what kind of school is Devereux? Is it religious? Is it W.W.A.S.P? Is it?
No, Devereux is a residential treatment center.
Okay. And so was it
But
points
it's also
and levels?
What?
Was it points and levels?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Well, levels. Yeah, I guess that was done through points that we weren't able to see that were in the staff notes. Because that's kind of what I came to find out about Heritage. But yeah. So, what was your question? Sorry.
I was just wondering, how do you graduate Devereux? What was the overall, how would you graduate?
Well, first of all, it's a level 18 lockdown facility too. That should be noted.
Okay.
So it's designed much like Provo Canyon to keep the kid inside.
Okay. Okay.
Particularly if they're a runner. I couldn't quite see a way out because it seemed that kids who were turning 18 there were just going on to the adult units there and getting stuck into that. And so it just looked like it went on and on and on.
No clear path.
No exit. No.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Walk us through your first day at Devereux. What do you remember about your first day there?
So I remember walking up to this kid named Jack who was sitting on one of the kind of chairs that they had there, and that was in the commons area of the unit. And I said, "What's up?" And he said, "What's up? Where are you from?" And I told him where I was from, and then I asked him how long he'd been there, and he said 4 years. And I looked at him and I said, "Yeah, right." Because in my mind, I had never heard of a place keeping a kid 4 years, or in my head, I had never thought of this whole thing going on this long. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, how could that possibly be? And then he said, "No, man, for real, 4 years." And he was very serious about that. As if I had just kind of triggered something in him. And then I was sitting and talking with him and this other kid, Jason, and I remember the staff member went into the doorway of one of the boys' rooms, and there was some type of sort of like animosity from the team towards the staff, and all of a sudden the kid was being thrown onto the ground and tackled, and all these other staff were getting on top of him too. And then we were all told to go to our rooms. And it was like very shocking to me because I hadn't seen that before. I'd never seen like an adult man kind of, tackle someone who was kind of in their care,
Yeah.
or a kid, it's kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
And that kind of would set the tone for what Devereux really was. It was just like, it was very, very, if you even came back at a staff with kind of any type of attitude, it was quite possible if they wanted to, that they would take you to the ground. And then that would become a thing, and sometimes that would lead to, with all of us being stuck in our rooms while this was going on, it was against the rules for us to stick our head out of the door to see what was going on. And by the way, we had 2 people per room, each room.
Was it just like huge? Go ahead.
What?
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, was it just a huge building with a lot of rooms in it?
Yeah.
Like, how was it set up?
Yes. So imagine like you have one wing with 4 rooms, and then another wing with 4 rooms, and then you have the commons area in the middle, and that had 3 rooms.
Okay.
Yeah.
One big building though?
No, not really. Very small. There wasn't a lot to do in there, and you could sit and watch TV if it was TV time, but that was about it, really. We kind of just played cards and kind of talk to each other about things. And to be fair, like, that there was this kind of back area that they let us out into if we got to a certain level, which was level 2. We were allowed to go out into the back gated area, but that was a cage. It wasn't like we ever got to go outside, really.
Yeah.
We were kind of just all stuck in this hellhole. And I just remember like how one restraint would sort of turn into another restraint, and then another restraint, and then another restraint, and it would be like 4 hours of us being stuck in our room, with nothing to do,
Yeah, kind of like
Just going
lockdown,
on.
what they do in prison when there's like a riot or something, they lock everybody down, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, except there were no locks. So if someone, what generally led to someone else being restrained was the fact that they got so bored with being in their room that they just broke the rule and walked right out during the restraint, and that led them to be restrained.
Yeah.
But also like the way the level system worked. So level 1, you come in, you basically have no privileges, and you have to go to bed. I think it was like 8 o'clock or 8:30 or something like that. And then level 2, you get to go to bed at like 8:45, and you get to go out into that back cage area. Level 3, you get to go off the unit to school during the day and sometimes do social activities with the campus. Level 4, you get to do that, but you also get to go off campus like once or twice a month for like some type of field trip, in the evening. And level 5, I think you could go off campus and get a job, but I don't know. I never got further than level 3, in my time. So, and I spent most of the time on level 1.
Okay. I have a very similar story. I spent the first year in my program in intervention, in between intervention and study hall. So.
Right.
How long were you at Devereux?
I was there for a year and 3 months.
Okay. And
Yeah.
Did they have any sort of solitary confinement there?
They did. They did have an isolation room. Yes, they had 2 of them, and they both had cameras in the corner of them, so that the staff could watch from the staff desk. Yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting. And what kind of thing would you have to do to be put in isolation?
Get restrained.
Okay, so after being restrained, you got put in isolation?
Yes. That's where you'd be put immediately. Yeah.
Okay.
But like, let's say 2 people get restrained and they're both put in isolation. Then I think that they had like an alternative room, but I never saw that. I don't know.
Did you ever personally get put in isolation?
I did after I got restrained. Yeah. So one day, I'd been there probably for 8 months or something, but I was losing my fucking mind, and I hadn't been outside in so fucking long.
Yeah.
And I was losing my mind, and I was being drugged, and you know, anyway, that's no excuse, but I broke someone had a CD case that I got a hold of, and I broke it into sharp pieces. And I kind of made a plan with this other kid there that we were going to hold the staff hostage and go out and take their cars. I mean, it was complete insanity.
Yeah.
Of course, it never would have worked, and there would be no way that that would have been possible. I can't drive,
Yeah.
All these things. But so anyway, I walked over to his doorway and I handed him one of these sharp pieces. And I think that he had ratted me out.
Mm-hmm.
And because immediately I turn around and there's a staff member there, and I kind of giggled a little bit, like I had lost my mind holding this sharp shard up.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, another staff member came from behind and grabbed me, pulled my arms to like open wide, and then slammed my face to the ground, and body. And I was bleeding pretty badly from my lip. And I didn't fight, of course, after that. But then they drugged me over to the isolation room. Yeah.
And how long were you how long were you in isolation?
About 7 hours that day.
Okay. What's the longest time you that you heard anybody being in isolation in that program?
It wasn't. I don't think it was very long. Maybe a couple of days, maybe 3 days, depending on their behavior. Like if they kept going physical in there. I don't know. I can't remember that much from that there. I remember more about isolation in Utah than there, to be honest with you.
Okay, that's fine. It's fine. So, do you have anything about Devereux that you want to talk about specifically before I move on to Provo Canyon? Like, do you have any stories or anything you want to touch on from Devereux?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a horrendous place that's holding kids. Generally, they take kids who have under 80 IQ, and that generally came through CPS. So you're talking about kids who, first of all, can't really, talk for themselves and can't really think for themselves, and have been through tremendous abuse at home prior to coming there. And then they're thrown into this world where they're just stuck in it all day. And I think that if we're talking about any type of therapeutic kind of benefit, I don't think Devereux had any at all.
Okay.
Fair.
That's fair. Did you you yourself were you adopted or anything, or were you in foster care or anything like that?
No. I have 2 good parents, but they were kind of in the process of getting a divorce and did divorce while I was in Devereux.
Interesting.
So there was a lot of tumultuous kind of stuff going on at home that was making me maybe led to me running away. I don't know.
Well, probably subconsciously you didn't want to be around that, even if it wasn't completely conscious on the forefront of your mind. You probably didn't want to be around that, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone would want to be around that.
Yeah, generally, yeah. Okay. So when you got, like, when you were about to go to Provo, did they tell you where you were going to go to Provo? How did that whole transition happen? Do you know why they sent you there? Like, walk us through that.
I do. So there was this other captive in Devereux with me called Matt Tope, who was my best friend. And he was like my only really good friend there. And like our families kind of had a visit together, in the same visiting area, which was basically the dining room there on the unit. And Matt got sent to Provo, to Heritage in Provo. And so his mom had kind of been pushing my mom to get me to go there because she felt like it had been more beneficial for Matt. So my mom started pushing for that because she had come and visited and really didn't think much of the place
Yeah.
either, even though she didn't pull me right away.
Yeah.
She just didn't think much of it. So yeah, so then I got sent there. And my dad came and got me that night, or actually in the morning, and we got on a flight and we flew to Utah. And we were met by one of the couriers named Cole, who actually, it turned out, had gone to Heritage like a decade before, or like maybe 5 years prior to that. He was
Alumni.
actually,
Alumni.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I kind of got my first taste of, all of a sudden I'm in this program now where I can't swear. It was funny because, like, in Texas, it was okay for us to swear as long as it wasn't like thrown in an aggressive way. So
Interesting.
all of a sudden I'm in Heritage, and if I swear, I'm going to get like in serious trouble. Like I'm going to end up doing writing assignments.
Yeah.
But so I get there and I get out of the car, and right away Matt is walking around. I mean, like the first thing I notice is, okay, kids are walking around here at least. They're able to go out around the campus, it looks like. It
Mhm.
looks like sometimes they're kind of walking around without supervision, which I came to see later was about levels. But,
Mhm.
it looked a lot more free and open than, the program I had just prior been in, which was completely closed. But one of the things is that when I arrived there, it was a 3-level system. There was red, blue, and yellow, and those were your 3 levels. And then I think it was probably 4 months in, they changed the entire program completely, and they switched to a 5-level system, and it just became so impossible to negotiate that,
Yeah.
because it seemed like there were just so many more pitfalls and so many more kind of traps in the actual level system. But and also they made the campus, the campus went from being co-ed after 4 months to being segregated, girls and
Interesting.
boys.
Do you have any idea what caused those changes? Like, did
I
somebody?
do.
Okay.
I do. Yeah, there were quite a few incidences of people having sex, I think.
Okay.
Captains having sex. And I,
That'd
but
piss. That'd piss them
don't,
off.
I don't know, like the internal management that went on with the upper kind of, upper people, of course, because I wasn't, I wasn't given privilege to that at all.
Yeah. Okay. At Devereux, did you have seminars you had to go through?
No, but we did have to do, every night we had to do goals group.
Yeah.
And that meant that we had to read our 3 goals that were written in our treatment team letter. And we had to read them out. And then we had to, and I can't remember any of my goals, but then we had to take feedback from 2 of our peers, which always turned into a shit show and was awful, and you'd always get negative feedback, which was horrible.
Yeah.
And that was kind of encouraged too.
Did you, was it all negative, or was there some positive feedback that people would give? Or was it just the connotation that the feedback was given in would always come out negative?
I think there probably was times when I got positive feedback for things, but then I think that, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you experienced this in program, but there'd be kind of like these climbs up the level system, and then these massive drops, and then you go into sort of this major depression for a long time and give up on trying, and then you try again, and you get dropped again. Do you know what I mean?
No, I know. Yeah, I dropped into every lower level family, so I definitely know what you mean.
I mean, it was just like, it just seemed like, and I just gave up at times, I'd have months of giving up, even trying. Because what the fuck is the point? You're just going to take everything from me every time I try,
Yeah. No, I definitely can relate to you on that. To make a distinction, you're saying Heritage and Provo. What's the difference between the two? Did Heritage become Provo?
No. So Heritage RTC is pretty close to Provo Canyon School, and it is in Provo, Utah, but it is not part of UHS. It is actually NatSap.
Okay. So
there's two separate programs.
Okay, so did you go to both, or did you go to Heritage?
No, I just went to Heritage. I didn't go to Provo.
Okay. I just wanted to make that distinction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course.
How long were you in Heritage for?
I was in Heritage for 2 years until I turned 18. I really began to run away from Heritage the first year. I really started to test the boundaries of how far I could go, getting the fuck out of there and getting the fuck out of T.T.I. And I ran probably like 18 to 22 times, and maybe 3 or 4 of them were successfully overnight, without getting caught by the
run. Night? Like you left in the middle of the night type thing?
No, like I was able to like make it 24 hours, like maybe 3 times,
Walk us through those.
Okay. One of the ones was we went to laser tag as a group, our unit, and I decided halfway through the game that I wanted to fucking run away. So I just busted out the emergency exit, took off my laser tag gear, and bolted. And that gave me a huge head start on the run team because we were already like 4 miles from the campus,
Mm-hmm.
So the run team had to kind of come from there to start looking for me. So I was able to I got to this homeless shelter place, and they were able to get me a room at the Douglas Hotel in Provo, which is kind of like a really rundown, cheap homeless hotel or place that the shelter puts people sometimes. And so I got a room there. And then in the morning, I got a ride from this really creepy guy to Salt Lake who really wanted to fuck me, I think. And of course, I wasn't down for that. So I ran from him at the Fashion Place Mall. But by that point, I hadn't eaten and I hadn't taken my meds. And I was on so much meds there that my withdrawal really started to fuck with me.
Yeah.
And I collapsed in the Fashion Place Mall and ended up going to the ER. And then I had to tell them where I was from. I had to tell them the truth.
And so they just came and picked you up right from the fucking hospital, right?
That's correct. And I ended up getting driven back to the campus and thrown right into an isolation room. Yep.
What? Go ahead.
No, yeah. I think I did 4 months in isolation after that one. That was a really bad one.
Now the isolation let's go over that. The isolation at Heritage. What was the isolation at Heritage like? What?
So it was a basement underneath the courier's office. And it was aside from all the other units, so away from all the other units. So if someone went physical and needed to be taken down to isolation, or they were going to take them down to isolation, they'd have to fight them all the way down there across the campus and drag them and slam them, multiple times before getting even down there. You got in there and, it was white perf walls, and five isolation rooms with chairs outside of the single chair outside of each area. So the isolation rooms had two in each kind of. You entered into a room, and then there were two isolation rooms, and then there would be like a chair right in the middle of those two isolation room doors, and that's where you would graduate out of the isolation room to sitting into that chair and doing writing assignments. So that was kind of like a privileged spot of the isolation, I guess, or you're kind of working your way out. And so it was pretty bad down there, man. If you're going to see some shit, that's where you're going to see it. If you're going to hear some shit, that's where you're going to hear it. And boy, did I, I witnessed some horrific restraints down there. I witnessed a girl who had assaulted another girl on a unit, had been brought down there fighting all the way. And then when she entered in, she was taken down to the ground right in the commons area of isolation. And she grabbed like a death lock onto this staff member's hair, who was a female, and she started slamming her face into the ground. So this other huge staff named John got on top of her, like on top of her back, and just started punching her in the arm to try and get her to let go, and she wouldn't. So then he started punching her in the face, and she still wouldn't. And then, so there's blood everywhere, and it's just the most horrific thing I've ever witnessed. And then finally, the staff member, John, goes, how do I get you to let go? And she goes, well, I'm just so scared right now. I don't know if I can, and it was like the first kind of like time that anyone had tried to have a conversation with this girl instead of just fighting her, which had triggered her, and forced her into this situation where she had this death grip.
Yeah.
Anyway, so finally she did let go, and she was taken to an isolation room. But the next, I think it was a week later, I saw her face, and it was pretty brutal. She had bruises all over her face and cuts. And her arm was completely black and blue.
Definitely, that's horrific. Did you sleep down there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we slept in the rooms. They brought a mattress and slapped it on the floor, and they put it next to our bucket for pissing, and they slammed the door closed and locked it, and that was and then they turned the light off.
And did
was bad.
Did they give you your meds when you were down there? Did they feed you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you were at Devereux, let's go back there for a second. Were you drugged up at Devereux as well? Did they give you? Okay. What kind of medications were you on, if you don't mind sharing?
So Devereux was a very high dose of Depakote and Zoloft. I remember that specifically. But then when I got to Heritage, they switched it over to an extremely high dose of Seroquel and Zoloft.
Okay, did the Seroquel, I'm familiar with all those drugs you listed off. Did the Seroquel give you a very vivid nightmares and night terrors?
No, but it really made sort of trying to do daily functions and keep going with the program so tiring every day.
Were you exhausted all the time?
Yeah, just all the time.
I used to be on Seroquel.
Just constantly exhausted. Just so fucking tired. And no empathy for that,
Yeah.
At all.
Well, they want your your mind weak so they can mold. You know what I mean? They want you in a state where they can easily mold your thoughts and whatnot.
Most definitely.
At Heritage, there was a 5-level system. There was separation, I assume, of the sexes.
Yes.
Okay.
When that program changed, yes. Yeah.
And was there ever anybody in Devereux or Heritage that killed themselves that you know of?
No,
No.
not
Okay.
while in there, no.
Okay. What about staff
I
being
do know. Okay, so I do know that one night when I was in isolation, in an isolation room, this girl got brought into the isolation room that was next to mine in the same kind of block unit, or that same kind of room area, and she had cut her wrists, or she had cut herself because they came down and started stitching her up, and they didn't give her any painkillers or any numbing, and I could hear her screaming, and it was just the most awful thing. And then when they left her in there, she was just bawling, just wailing. And I don't know to this day who that was. But I mean, stuff happened, you know?
All right. What
I mean,
about?
I think that these programs dealing with, you know, individuals who self-harm, you know, they do just the most horrendous job at managing that in any way, or sort of, you know, trying to treat it in any way. You know, they just make it awful. And I think that a lot of the times it, you know, it becomes a situation where girls end up cutting themselves in places where the staff don't ever see, you know, but they're still doing it.
Yeah. No, for sure. Did you hear about any staff at either of the schools being inappropriate towards the students, or any students being like, for example, if at the place I was at, I know for a fact that there was sexual predators and shit that were in there with us. So do you know of any students being inappropriate with each other or staff being inappropriate with each other when you were there at either of the programs?
So I know that there was a young girl who was a CPS girl at Heritage who, when she turned 18, one of the staff members basically took her and married her. And he stopped working there. And they went off and got married.
Did he take her with him?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's a very common thing that I've heard when interviewing people.
I mean, essentially, he groomed her there.
Oh yeah.
And then kidnapped her and married her.
Totally.
You know.
Yep. That's usually how it goes in these schools. It's very unfortunate. What about food there? How was the food at both places? Was it super shitty?
Okay, so
Was it terrible?
Devereux was absolutely unedible food. It was disgusting, and I lost so much weight there. Heritage had a little bit better food, but not super great, but a little bit better.
Okay. Was there anything at either? Let's talk about Heritage because you said that Devereux was horrible. Was there any meals that you actually sort of looked forward to? Because I remember for me, I loved the burritos and I loved the. They used to give us breakfast on Sunday. Those are bomb.
Yeah, I love burritos. I mean, sometimes they would have like a salad bar out, and they'd put like macaroni salad and like little chunks of bacon, and I would just go to town on that shit.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Let's see. Did Heritage have any seminars?
Heritage did not have seminars, but what Heritage kind of did was we had like in unit groups, you know, every day,
Like
and
small
they
groups.
were just huh.
Like small groups.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it would be everyone on the unit, so it would be like 16 people. But, you know, I think I don't feel like that's small. I still feel like that's kind of big. But
Yeah.
they were just so fucking boring. I mean, I just wanted to die every time we started one. You know? I just felt there was nothing that was going to benefit me from them. And, you know, talking to Mormon therapists from the University of Phoenix about my feelings or my problems, you know, truthfully, would have been impossible there, because my feelings and my problems were that I was trapped there. You know, that was my main problem, that I was there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, my PTSD got so bad by the time I was 17. I was so fucked up from everything that had happened to me through T.T.I. that, you know, I felt like whatever I'd come in with at 15 or 14 into T.T.I. had just been completely exacerbated, you know, and made much, much worse.
No, I definitely feel you. Fuck, I had a question on top of my head and I just forgot it. Let's see, no seminars. Okay. Oh yeah. In the small groups, was it essentially just talking about what was coming up for you, emotions, stuff like that, like that kind of thing?
I mean, yeah, I mean, they were just basically talk groups, but I think that a lot of the times, like they do, like, sometimes you do like a theme, like sometimes I remember this therapist brought in like The Wall, and we watched like a tiny clip of The Wall, and then he wanted us to talk about like a certain topic off of that, or just, you know, stuff like that. But then also we had rec therapy, and rec therapy was a bit weird and cultish too, because we had these obstacle kind of things that, I mean, it kind of looked like an obstacle course when I first got there out in the field, but they were actually kind of things that were set up for different therapeutic recreational therapy things. So we had like a trust fall box, and we had like a wall that we were supposed to all together figure out how to climb over, which we never did.
They have the exact same thing at Spring Creek, both of those things. It's crazy.
And they had some other things too, but I can't remember what they were.
Did they have a swing?
Yes.
They had a swing
What
where you had to
was
swing.
that?
What?
What was that? Explain.
Okay, so the swing they had at Spring Creek, they had a tire swing, and you had to swing to the other side successfully, or some shit like that. And you had to have multiple people on the tire, so you had to swing like from each side back and forth or whatever. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember there being a tire swing there.
No, we had like this huge log that was like a seesaw that had one side that was too heavy, and we had to all get on there and then get it to go in the middle so that neither side were touching the ground, and we had to keep that balanced as a group for as long as possible.
I swear we had that too. This is crazy. This is like blowing my mind that they had that there too. Did you?
No, I think I kind of think this is kind of stuff that they've all kind of do.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's very interesting to see the parallels between each program.
Yeah. I mean, I think I found that culty though, because I think that if you're going to stick me up on a box and ask me to fall back into the hands of people who have ratted on me and caused my level to drop, or, you know, are in just a desperate situation as I am, it's just not going to happen, you know? I'm not going to trust you.
Yeah. No, I definitely get that. Before you went to Devereux or Heritage, were you religious at all, or because you said there was a religious aspect to Heritage?
No, I wasn't. No, and I'm not raised in a religious family either. So no, the answer is no. But Heritage is just all Mormons. It's just, I mean, everyone who works there is a Mormon, because everyone who's in Provo is pretty much a Mormon, and those surrounding areas, you know, the majority is Mormon.
Did they bring?
Well, I mean, I think that, like, I don't feel like they were indoctrinating us, but I also don't feel like you cannot be indoctrinated, because that's just that they're all Mormon.
Yeah.
So you're surrounded by that, and everyone all of your adults around you are Mormon, you know?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's see. Did you? Well, let's see. You said you ran that. You went over that one time. Like, what was the time you ran where you were away the longest?
I think that was my longest run. That because that was over 24 hours. I think that was my longest run. I mean, for the most part, I would only be gone a few hours if it was like, if I got out of the zone of the run team in like the early stages of my run, or if I got away without them knowing in the early stages of my run. I mean, I remember one time we were walking across campus from one unit to another, and we went around the corner of a unit, and I just fell back in the line behind the last staff, and as they turned the corner, I just bolted the other way.
Nice.
I think I got caught though pretty fast after that.
Well, kudos to you for even trying to run. I would never have fucking tried that shit. I never would have.
Yeah, I just kind of had it in me from prior. I was pretty good at it. I was a pretty good escape artist, and I certainly wasn't going to tell you if I was going to do it. Even if I was planning it.
Yeah. Did they let you read books there? Did they let you listen to music at all?
So, Heritage was quite restrictive with all of that. They didn't really want us to have too many books from the outside with too many influences. Certainly didn't get to watch the news or read the newspaper. I think in Devereux we had more options with books.
Did they have like a library there?
Yeah, but it wasn't very good. I just remember my parents sent me books and I was allowed to have them.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Was there anybody that, do you know any staff members that would bring drugs to the campus, or any people there that would do drugs on the campus? Did you ever notice any drugs getting into either of the facilities?
So
Drugs.
staff members know. I do remember this one time somehow my friend got a hold of some weed, and I tried to figure out how he got it, but I didn't ever find out. But we rolled it in a Book of Mormon Bible paper.
Nice.
And we went into the shower, and we took this one match that he had with this one tiny piece of flint, and we were like freaking out because we only had like one go at the strike, and we did get it, and we did light it, and we did smoke it, and we did get away with it.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. That'd be awesome. Though I don't know how long after I smoked that I'd start tripping out that I was in the program still, and I can't.
Yeah, I wasn't too okay with it. My friend was super cool all day, but I was just like, fuck, this is awful. Like, I don't feel okay about this at all. I'm so paranoid.
Yeah.
Like, they're gonna find out. They're gonna know.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna know, man.
For real. All right, so when you got out of, how did you end up getting out of Heritage? Like, walk us through that. And did you you didn't graduate because you didn't get higher than level 3, right?
Heritage, I got to level 4. Level 3 was Devereux. So I was approaching my 18th birthday, and that is basically what terminated me, because they had an issue with keeping kids past 18, because they didn't want kids to kind of be able to check out and go off campus, do what they want, and bring stuff back and influence the kids who were there.
Yeah.
Or they just didn't want 18-year-old adults to be with children, I guess. I don't know. So I remember, like, I mean, by that point I had drank quite a lot of Kool-Aid,
Yeah.
and I kind of started to work the program and kind of buy into things and
Yeah.
kind of, or talk like it. I don't know if I bought it, but I talked like I bought it.
Like faking it till you make it.
Yeah, but like super like friendly with all the staff and stuff, just
Yeah.
like, super good friends with everyone, and, well known across campus as someone who's kind of changed, you know? Not a
Yeah.
runner anymore, you know? So
Yeah.
when I left, it was kind of emotional for me leaving, man. And then I got home and my mom picked me up from the airport and we went back to my house, and my little brother and sister had made like welcome home sign and stuff like that. And I got to tell you, man, I walked in there and I was completely fucked up from PTSD, and I mean, it held together for a little while, but then I really started to have flashbacks and I really started to have issues with sort of not being able to stop thinking about things that had happened, you know, and not being able to stop thinking about like the kind of twist on, was this treatment? Was that treatment? Was that girl getting socked in the face treatment?
Yeah.
And like how, if it's not treatment, then how do you get good people, good Mormon folks or good Texas folks to do really fucking bad things to kids all day for a living? And then even better, how do you convince them that what they have been doing actually isn't wrong in their own minds? You know?
Yeah. Because their
Uh,
staff's brainwashed as much as the kids are, I'm sure. You know what I mean?
yeah, but it's different. It's different because it's more. It reminds me more of like a high school thing than like what we went through was more cultic and
Yeah.
more kind of I don't know, like there was kind of a system and a way of breaking us down and building us up kind of thing or something like that,
Mhm.
supposedly. But
Yeah.
with staff, that isn't the way. So I kind of felt like it was. I mean, I remember. So in Heritage, we had this thing called the response team, right? And the
Mhm.
response team were all the big staff members who came onto the unit when someone was going physical and removed them or
Yeah.
restrained them and then brought them down to isolation or whatever.
They used to have a code word for
They were
that
kind
on
of
the radio where I was. Used to have a code word.
what?
They used to have a code word. They'd yell over the radio for they'd say like support staff, support staff. They like yell support staff, support staff. We need support staff, and then a bunch of fucking big staff would come in and
Yeah,
tackle whoever. Yep, same
yeah,
kind
it's the
of thing.
same shit. Yeah. Ours was called response team. So they pick up the phone, they go, we need a response team to Unit 6. And then within like 3 minutes, there'd be like three or four huge staff there,
Mm-hmm.
So I once watched this female who was quite large, who had must have been like 24, who had just joined the response team just after her first restraint, talking to one of the kind of like older members of the response team. And she was like, and this was just me walking by, so I only caught a little bit of it. But she was like going, so guys, was that okay? Was that okay? And they were all going, yeah, that was great. You did that great. You got her arm back, and you had your knee in her back, and I kind of thinking about this now more as an adult than then. It's like this girl probably had been bullied for being larger than other girls maybe her entire life,
Yeah.
and had finally found a group of guys who accepted her at her job and made her feel good. And
Mm-hmm.
then at the same time, they all together convinced each other or gave a reflection that they were actually helping us, you know?
Yeah.
So that I think that kind of plays into I don't know. It's so complicated. But there's many factors with that, right? It's like a lot of the times the criteria that kind of meets most staff is that they're all in debt, they've all been bullied, and they all, at one point or another had some type of bad experience in their childhood.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that completely. So when you got home,
Yeah.
you said dealing with a lot of PTSD. At what point did you get involved in drugs?
Ah. So right off the bat, I really liked smoking weed.
Yeah.
I just really, really loved smoking weed. And really that maintained as my drug of choice for years, but like I didn't smoke it like a normal person. Like I smoke alcoholically. I have to smoke all day. Or like if I'm going out somewhere, anywhere, I need to smoke a little weed first. Or then I need to smoke a little weed before I go into there once I get there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I completely get you.
So it kind of became a thing for me. And then I started drinking when I turned 35 or 34. I found bourbon and I started drinking, and those have really been my two mains. I've dabbled in other things, don't get me wrong, but
Mhm.
nothing else has really stuck.
Well, you're lucky on that front. You're lucky on that front.
I am. I am.
Did you were you using when you were using alcohol, were you using it to like numb were you using it to numb yourself, or were you drinking it because you enjoyed it? Or was it both?
Both.
Both?
Both. But
Okay.
I think inevitably it becomes about me just not wanting to feel myself and not wanting to feel what I experience, and just kind of like the constant escapism that I've had to do since I was 12 years old, and I got I got my first taste of trauma.
Yeah.
I kind of always just run away in my head, whether it's kind of disassociation or, you know, smoking a joint or having a drink, you know?
Yeah. You are you are in recovery though, right?
I'm currently trying to. I'm going to be going back to rehab on Monday, actually, on the 5th of June. I've kind of fallen off the wagon a little bit.
It's okay,
So,
don't beat yourself up. It happens to all of us. Um
for sure.
um are you going to rehab for everything, or are you just for alcohol, or what's your goal
I'm
for?
going for alcohol and I'm going for marijuana, but I'm also going for trauma and I'm going for lack of sort of spirituality or lack of positive hobbies, good friends. I need to get a better support system around me again.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Are you still in touch with your parents?
I am. It's a little strange, but yeah, I am.
Okay. And me smoking this doesn't bother you, does it?
No, I can't see you anyway. I can only see me in the screen for some reason.
You can't see me?
No, I haven't been able to see you this whole time.
Well, damn, I'm up in the corner. That's fucking weird. Hold on a second.
I'll show you what I see. I'll take a screenshot, send it to you at some point. Let me see if I can. Hold on a sec. See if
Yeah.
I can. I can send it through Messenger for you.
Yeah, that's cool.
Mhm.
I mean, really, they don't need to see me. You're the one being interviewed, but
Yeah, I kind of felt like that was cool, so I didn't
hey,
question it. You know.
yeah. Okay. Let's see. And you're
Have
going.
I frozen?
Yeah, you're
It
frozen.
looks frozen. Yeah.
You are
What do I
frozen.
do?
Um, hopefully it'll unfreeze. If not, then we might have to end this call, and then I'll call you back, and then I'll just piece the two fucking videos together. Um,
Okay.
so I'm just gonna call you back, okay?
Um,
Okay, I'll call you right back.
mhm.
Okay, so you had said you were let's talk about a little bit about like what your goals are for this time in recovery. Like you said you're in rehab right now, so let's just talk about like what your goals are for this recovery. How's it going? And let's start there.
Yeah. I mean, I think I think this time around I just need to stay, and I need to stay as long as I can. I think the last time I really just kind of allowed myself to get hijacked in my mind and thinking I didn't need any of this kind of community and any of this kind of thing. And I got back into drinking again. In fact, the last time when we recorded, I was drinking and smoking again. You know, I wasn't sober.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, you know, just I get the opportunity here at this rehab to really put some time in if I stay. You know, I can stay a year here, and I can get an internship here. You know, at 6 months. So I think that's my goal really. I don't do well when I drink and when I smoke weed. It just turns into a shit show, and I get really lonely and isolated and depressed. You know, and mentally ill for the most part.
Okay.
You know.
Okay. And then I was curious about, is it your belief that these places should be shut down, or do you think that they should be fully regulated, or what's your stance on that?
No, I'm pro abolishment, but I think it's my opinion that, you know, a bill in a righteous form would force most of these places to close. You know, I don't think that they could abide by regulations if properly regulated. You know, I don't think the way they function, it would be possible. I don't think that the Charles E. Dietrich model or the Roloff model is functionable in regulation, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely agree. They'd be like, oh, you expect us to follow and abide by this? Okay, well, I guess we're going to shut down then.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the
Because,
tactics they use are not going to be okay with the regulation, you know?
yeah, me either. And yeah, I agree. I think that, you know, isolation has to go. Level systems have to go. Like that, it's bullshit to have to earn privilege, you know, basic human right privileges. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah, I completely agree. Okay, anything else you want to share with people about your journey, or just like where you're at, or just about boarding schools in general, or your experience?
Um. I mean, just, you know, I think it's just important to say that, you know, what I went through really fucked me up, like severely fucked me up, and I think that it fucked all of us up. And I think that if we can save a future generation from this and end it, and, you know, move towards more of a wraparound sort of style of helping teens where it's community based and therapy in home, you know, that would be ideal. I don't think sending your kid out of a situation that is toxic and then torturing them and then bringing them back into that situation does anything for the child at all, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not good to have them leave the family unit either. I mean, I know some situations the family's the ones that are the abusers, and in those situations, maybe, you know, obviously you should probably go into, as much as I hate foster care, you know, and I'm not pushing for it, you know, like in some situations it might be better than staying at home and being abused, but in the general consensus, yeah, I don't believe that sending kids out of their home is a good thing.
Yeah, but I mean, like, generally when that's going on, there's at least a caring aunt or uncle or a, you know, a friend's parents who you could go live with.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
that, you know, even CPS doesn't need to be a part of that, you know, necessarily. But, you know, that's probably not a realistic view on what would happen, you know, if abuse was found. But, you know, I just don't, you know, I I don't I don't subscribe to the troubled teen industry at all. It's an insidious industry.
yeah,
I mean, even looking at this recent suicide, which I would rather call a murder at
yeah,
Daniel's Academy, like all of the upper management at Aspero, which is which who owns Daniel's Academy, all of the upper management are, some are Sea-Doo, most are Aspen Academy, Aspen people.
Yeah.
There's La Europa, there's New Haven. It's insidious to think that any of these people are still working with kids. It's disgusting. So, I'm absolutely against that.
Okay. Fair. And me too, man. I fucking hate the troubled teen industry. It's really fucked up. Okay. So, you have anything else to say about your experience? Because this is just going to be more of a like tie-in, because it got cut off last time. So I just want to
No, I mean, I don't quite fully remember what we fully talked about because I wasn't in the right mind, but I hope that I did a good job explaining both programs.
Yeah, you did good. It just got cut off abruptly because of the whole freezing thing. So
Yeah.
I didn't want to do you like that. You know what I mean?
Of course, bro.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming on the show, and we'll do a part 2 in the future if you want to, maybe just to check in. And thank you so much for coming on the show, and thanks everybody for tuning in. Please make sure you like the video, share the video, subscribe if you're not already. It really helps the algorithm. I've noticed that, and I know this is for a lot of people on YouTube, is the likes are a lot harder to get for some reason than just people subscribing. So if you could like the video, it just takes like 2 seconds. It would really help the algorithm. I just noticed that the likes are way down in comparison to the views. So nothing harsh against people that are watching or whatnot. Just if you could hit the like button, I'd really appreciate it. Really help the algorithm. I know that's kind of repetitive. I'm sorry for that. But thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you on the next one. Bye.